some chips.
All right. Well, here we are at episode 24.
Yeah.
And we lost some ships. And I'm Paul.
I'm Bryce.
And we have two guests today.
Yeah, we do.
We have Jess.
Hey.
And we have Amber.
Hi.
And we're all friends here. And,
we suddenly all got very shy.
and this is going to be a great episode. And
well, we finally delivered on our promise of bringing the women.
That's actually a good point.
Thank you for being women.
Thank my parents.
A couple episodes ago when we kept promising two female guests, these were the two female guests.
Yeah.
And we had some scheduling conflicts, and all of that was our fault. But
Anyway, we feel very grateful to have you two here. Because you're super fun, super cool, lots of interesting things to say. And Amber loves true crime podcasts. The grislier, the better. And, she loves the blood and guts.
And Jess loves serial killers. No, that's a bad joke.
But her favorite color we've learned is leopard print.
Yep.
That's right. She considers that a color.
It's true.
But she has very good style, so I defer to her.
Legit.
I won't put you in leopard print, though.
Thank you.
That is interesting. We'll have to see that. Leopard print pajamas or something. I think onesies,
a nice
maybe.
Tie.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's exotic. I was gonna say something and I forgot what it was.
Oh, dang it! Sorry.
What a great start. Do we have any
announcements or
news?
Oh, so my excuse for the episode.
Let's hear it.
Of why?
Is that I'm tired. I didn't get enough sleep, and then I didn't take a nap today. So
yeah.
If I'm not as funny and charming as I usually am.
Yeah.
That's why.
Okay, that's great.
And people are like, well, you've never been.
I think.
Of course you have.
Yeah.
If Bryce isn't as funny.
That's a lifelong excuse, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a lifelong excuse. That can always explain my below averageness.
So, sounds good. I was going to say, if Bryce sounds not as charming and funny, just think it's probably because I'm becoming more charming and funny, and by comparison, and it seems like he's a little bit less.
That could be it. And we have two charming and funny co-hosts or guests. So
that's true. Yeah.
Change the dynamic a little bit.
A little bit.
In a good way.
So, okay. So, today, go ahead.
Wait, do we have any news?
I don't
What's
think
happening
so.
in the world of relationships?
Nothing amazing that I know of.
You two girls are girls. You tell us.
We are girls. You are correct. What's happening that's new?
Yeah, just in the world of relationships.
I've got nothing.
I was just undoing my pen.
My first thought is like Kardashians, but I have nothing.
Didn't Kim Kardashian ace the LSAT or something?
No, she's well, I don't know about the LSAT. She said she's gonna study and take the law exam and not go to law school. So she's gonna try to become a lawyer without going to law school.
Oh, interesting.
Which in some states you can take the bar exam without without going to law school. You know. And
so I learned
study and then. If
you just have to pass the bar, and which it's really hard to pass the bar if you don't go to law school. But you could do it. But I don't think I would hire an attorney who hadn't gone to law school. But you know, whatever.
I learned this from TV. Did you ever see The People versus O.J. Simpson?
No.
It was an American crime story.
Oh, yeah. I heard of it. Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, I learned this from TV that her dad was an attorney.
He represented.
Well, and he was a good close friend of O.J. Simpson. Yeah.
Oh, really? Mm-hmm. I did not know that.
That's kind of as far as I'm aware, the beginning of kind of how they became famous, and then there were other things.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I went to law school. I don't know if I told this on the podcast, but and there was an open house, and I ended up at a table with the criminal law professor, and he said, "So, you got any questions?" And I was like, "Yeah. What do you really think about the OJ trial?" And, he kind of laughed, and he said, "Well, they convinced the jury of 12 men, and but 12 people, but." But then he said, I think that people kind of had it out for the LAPD because they were making really bad mistakes, and people were like, stick it to them because,
That's too bad.
But I'm not saying OJ was guilty, but that's just what the guy said. Anyways.
Anyway, okay. All right. Well, thank you for entertaining my very off-topic warm-up.
Yeah, what was new in the world of dating?
Yeah, okay. You thought you were perfect. The audience was tuning in for an episode about initiating, but no, it's all about OJ this time.
Now we're talking about initiating.
Okay, yeah, we're talking about initiating in what was it? Initiating and dating. I liked the rhyme of that.
Well. That sounds like, it does sound like a good rhyme. Initiating and dating.
Okay, that's what we're doing.
Basically what we're talking about.
Yeah. Okay, so to kick it off, so I pose a question on this.
Pose it. Pose away.
Just very quietly turned over her piece of her outline.
On the wrong side.
Okay, and then I drew attention to it, which kind of invalidated the whole thing. Okay, so the question I first pose is, what does it mean to initiate in friendships and also in dating? So when I think of a word, I try to break it down into its component words.
Its component pieces.
Mank and Eind.
I thought you were going there. Have you heard that? Deep thought?
No.
The guy's like, to understand mankind, we must first understand the word. It's made up of two words, mank and Eind. Since we don't know what these words are, nor can we understand mankind. Something like that.
Oh, man.
That's deep thought.
Anyway.
Okay, so
I think when we're talking about initiating in friendships and in dating, we're talking about someone making the first step to start something, right? To spend more time, or to start a conversation,
sure.
Or to plan to spend more time with them, later on.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like with my friendships, I've thought about this a few times when I've thought about specific friends, and I look back and I think to myself, how did we become friends? And oftentimes I don't remember. And to me, I think it's just because it's just a very natural, we just clicked right from the get-go. It didn't feel to me, I don't think I've ever felt like I've overtly tried to initiate a friendship with anyone.
Yeah.
That some people I just naturally become friends with without really trying.
Yeah.
We just naturally kind of click.
Yeah, and I think that's probably the ideal. Right?
Yeah.
Those are the most natural friendships, the ones that didn't feel like it was...
Probably the most common, I think.
Probably.
You're not necessarily seeking out a new friend situations happen.
Except for Jess and Amber, who are great friends right now, but they had to really try hard at first. Right? Tell us the origin story.
I don't know. Bryce is just making this up.
I'm making this up. I literally thought, Amber, what did you tell him? Do you want to tell them how we became friends?
Jess actually interviewed me and hired me at our current job.
Oh, nice.
What? So I took her place. She went to a new office that she didn't like. So she came back
4 days later.
Yeah.
Oh.
And then we've just been friends.
Wait. Did you hire her for your job?
Yeah.
Oh, and then
and then I left and I didn't like my new job.
So you came back?
And our boss let
and
me
what?
come
And then
back.
they fired Amber?
No. They just made a spot for me.
Yeah.
Below Amber?
Yeah, actually.
Yeah.
Technically.
How the tables had turned.
Moved around. Yeah.
Oh, man.
I can see there's a lot of resentment between you because of that.
Definitely.
So much.
Yeah.
Why'd
you bring this up?
The glee in my voice.
We're going to need to leave.
The mischief.
That's awesome.
Yeah, okay. Where are we going with that?
We're talking about
friendships.
Oh, yeah.
Friendships.
I guess with that, there was no initiation. We were coworkers at first.
Yeah.
That's
true.
And then as you do with people that you work with, spend time with, we got to know each other.
Yeah.
We have a lot of similar interests, and then just over time we do stuff together.
Yeah, and I think
that's how it happens.
That's probably the most common way, right? But and it's still technically initiating, right? Someone started something, or probably both people did.
Well, and I think
probably started as conversations.
Yeah, the initiation is that I wasn't, completely closed off to the person I work with.
Sure.
We had a friendly conversation from the beginning, and I think that's a very subtle way of initiating any kind of a relationship. Being open to having a small conversation.
Right. And in an alternate reality, Amber and Jess are at that same office, and maybe they're both a lot less friendly, and so they don't talk to each other, and so they're not really good friends.
Yeah.
Because they didn't initiate. So I'm just saying, it didn't feel like effort to you, but there was still.
I'm not friends with everyone in the office.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
I think too, some of this, your approach sometimes depends on your personality style too. On the Myers-Briggs, I know we've talked about that a little bit. I'm an ENFP. One of the cartoons in this book that I had that showed the ENFPs, it was it had a cartoon of a birthday party, and it said something like, Carol, the ENFP, is at a party with her 100 best friends, which is like some people will have more people they feel like these are all really great friends of mine, and other people have kind of a smaller subset of people they consider friends. I have this habit of like, even with people I don't really know that well, just calling them friend. Like, for instance, in my church, I invite people to like this dinner that we have every once in a while. And a lot of times when I'm texting people, I'll be like, "Hey, friend, want to come to this dinner?" And like, I don't really know them, but I don't know. So, anyways.
But I think using the word friend, that's engaging them in a conversation that says, "Welcome, let's talk about you coming to this dinner." If you said, "Hey, stranger," or "dummy," you would get no response whatsoever.
I would get rejected.
Yeah.
Maybe I should say, "Hey, friend, ... or do I assume too much?" But I have not done that. But
yeah. Okay. So, what about initiating and dating? What does that mean?
Yeah, initiating and dating.
Yeah. I think it's basically the same thing, but for a different purpose. A more advanced purpose.
Yes.
Yeah. Ulterior motives.
You want more than their friendship.
There's a lot more at stake, I think.
That's true. What? Money?
Rejection?
Rejection.
Risk.
Pain. Emotional pain.
Yeah, exactly.
I think I probably already told this joke on the podcast, but it's a good one. Where the guy and the girl are friends, and the guy wants to date, and the girl says, "I don't want to ruin the friendship." And the guy says, "That's the whole reason I became friends with you in the first place."
That wasn't a joke. That was a real story from one of your friends.
It was a...
Which is funny.
Well, it was... Yeah, James...
Oh, whoops.
James, who has been on this podcast, James and Erica, a married couple, we had them on back in the days. James told me that story, but I think it was an actual joke.
Oh, okay.
Sure. I don't think it was a real story.
It's lost in the lore.
But there's a lot of truth to that.
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, for sure. Like a lot of times in male-female relationships, one person would like to date. Sometimes, I don't know, not always, but sometimes it's platonic, I guess, but not as often.
So I think initiating for dating is a very critical issue. I think, sorry, I put on my serious, this is my serious Bryce tone of voice. I can shift like that. Yeah. Initiative is valuable, among humans, right? Like, there's value to waiting for things to happen to some extent, and there's value in being the one to start things. And I think in dating, if two people are kind of into each other, but they never do anything about it, then that's like kind of a tragedy. And there's no...
Yeah.
We are on this earth. We have power to make decisions within our personal contexts, which do have constraints, definitely. But it's kind of like in a world of entropy that's always tending towards chaos. It's like the status quo is disorder or stability, right? And so it's only when people initiate that they do things that some meaningful change is brought about.
Yeah. Somebody's got to make a move.
That's right. Yeah. Although it does make me think of The Office, where Andy and Aaron. Okay. And where okay, you're right.
Go ahead.
Where Andy was totally into Aaron, and he did this for Christmas. He was her secret Santa. And he did this elaborate 12 Days of Christmas thing, which she hated, because the first few were like birds. But it ended with like a drum line, which she was really impressed by. And so after that, as I recall, in the episodes after that, he was like, well, I kind of pulled out all the stops for that. So now I'm waiting on her to act.
Yeah.
And she was saying the same thing, like, well, I'm waiting on him to act. And I think that can happen in dating.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, get two people waiting. Yeah, nothing happens.
Yeah.
That's true.
Well, and this is why, there's, at least historically, there's cultural norms around the dating dance. I think those have changed a lot, at least in the U.S. And I think these can look different in different cultures as well. I've experienced some of that with some of my recent dating with non-Americans that I'm still trying to understand. You were going to say something, Paul.
No, I was just kind of pondering about how in general, in our culture, in most cultures, it's like more like males that take the initiative are supposed to take the initiative, culturally expected to kind of thing. Well, I was thinking when you were talking about dating girls from other cultures, was it that they were expecting that more kind of thing?
So yes, so there's one, I'm not going to mention names. There's a girl I know from a Latin country, and she remarked that it's new for her being in the U.S. and a little bit stressful for her because she's accustomed to men very much taking charge in dating or in going dancing or whatever. And so, whereas in the U.S. it's a little more egalitarian or whatever you want to call it, where it's more acceptable and to some extent, I don't know about expected, but it's definitely more acceptable for either to initiate, even though I think the expectation is still that men generally take charge in initiating in a dating.
It's true. I tend to think that in the U.S., like, well, now, like, we have even like apps like Bumble and stuff that's like explicitly like you can't initiate if you're the guy, like the woman has to initiate. Some girls like that.
And for people who have for whatever reason, come across as very unappealing on dating apps, Bumble has not been for me. Anyway, but go on.
Interesting. But even then,
I don't know if it's that my pictures are bad, if I'm just, who knows. Anyway, go on.
We'll check it out for you.
Check it out.
Yeah.
And I've had experiences with girls initiating things with me, but it still seems to me like in general what happens is that the girl initiates just the very beginning, and then it's kind of expected that, well, now it's up to me to be in the driver's seat from now on, kind of thing. Like, I know that you like me,
right?
Kind of thing.
Right.
And that's what you showed me by your initiation,
right?
And now they kind of like usually kind of sit back and wait and see what happens. You know, I think it's fun.
Yeah, and I would guess that like it's probably a better sign for the longevity of a relationship if the guy is more likely to initiate. Than if any. Well, I mean, the percentage of initiation, right? Like, hey, you want to go do something this week? Hey, you know, what are your plans for this? You know, are you planning to go to this party? You know, it's probably a better sign if the man is doing most of that than if the woman is.
Although I would say just that it's much appreciated though when you're like dating someone or when you're kind of, you know, starting to like go out with somebody, if you show that they're putting some initiative, you know that they like you back.
Absolutely. That it's not just you.
Yeah. And
absolutely.
And it feels more like a little bit like of a teamwork kind of thing. Like,
yes.
Okay. It's like they're actually being considerate and trying to plan stuff
very
too.
Very much so.
Because sometimes too, if you're a guy and you're like doing all the planning, it's like, it can feel like a lot of work.
Yeah.
Now I got to come up with something else fun to do for this weekend too.
Exhausting.
Or I guess we can just watch TV or whatever. But you know, when you're dating, it's not as hard. When you're like in a relationship already. But I feel like the beginning stages when you're like trying to come up with stuff, sometimes it's like, you know, it's got to think through these things and try to figure out stuff to do. And it's not always easy. So,
what do you ladies think?
I think there's definitely been a transition where now it's more common for women to maybe make those vocal initiations than before. I was reading an article, I'm just going to pull up on my phone. In like 1950, they made this list of 129 ways to get a husband.
Whoa.
And it's like, these are all initiating, but none of them are making the move of, do you want to go out?
Yeah,
there's a list of where to find him. So these places, there's, you know, suggesting, you know, put yourself in a position where they're going to see you.
Right.
That's initiation. Right. Absolutely. But it's you know,
passive.
It's very passive.
Yeah.
And then, you know, talks about like, you know, how to let him know you're there. So instead of walking up to someone and having a full-on conversation, expressing interest, these are just like very passive-aggressive, subtle ways to let somebody know that you, I don't know.
Yeah.
You're on their radar, I guess.
Yeah.
Now, you know, there still are definitely women that feel like they shouldn't be the one to initiate forward. Right. But I think, personal opinion, I think that that's a little bit of like self-preservation.
I think so too.
From the risk of putting yourself out there.
Yeah.
Because that's always kind of been the men's realm of putting yourself out there. Well, if he gets rejected, he's a guy. He's used to that. You know what I mean?
Right.
I don't
have to
I don't necessarily agree with that, but
Sure.
I feel like that's a little bit, women tend to kind of fall back in, not all women, but tend to fall back into that.
Yeah. Which is understandable.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But
some guys do, It
Yeah.
just depends
Absolutely.
on the guy and where they're at the time emotionally. And
ton
stuff.
about personality and
Yeah.
which I think is more now where those roles kind of lie. It's, I think, a lot more about personality than gender roles for me. But,
Yeah.
Amber, anything?
I agree with what Paul was saying. I don't have an issue initiating something with a guy, but then after that, I don't want to do more, directly after, because I feel like they should, I don't know, I don't want to put myself out there more.
Right.
Yeah. So. And you've already kind of showed your hand a little bit.
Right.
Yeah.
The person who initiates kind of has showed their hand a little bit, hey, I'm into you, I asked you out, or I might be into you, but I don't know. Yeah, and then you kind of want them to reciprocate kind of thing.
Yeah.
Some of this kind of, go ahead.
Yeah, let's pivot to some of the research findings on this kind of stuff. So we found these studies about different relationship initiation strategies.
Yeah, this was a study that was done, so this was back in 1999, but I think these things still, to me, they strike me as very applicable still today. I mean,
boy, I hope so.
But I mean, so they in their studies, they basically found 8 different methods of initiating that I guess they kind of grouped people's different strategies into these 8 different methods. And so some of the ones we've been talking about already, like directly initiating, so just to kind of list them. Becoming emotionally involved in revealing personal information, that's one. Directly initiating through physical contact, and I would say or asking a partner to start a relationship. Signaling.
What does that look like? Hey, baby, and you go and kiss him?
I don't think,
like an arm touch.
Yeah. You probably don't start with
will you go out with me?
Yeah. Yes. Okay, but you got
that just shows interest when
Yeah.
you're just talking to them. You don't even have to say that.
Oh,
yeah.
But then that kind of makes it passive.
You got to admit that, when it does feel to me like a more clear signal when I'm talking to a girl and she touches me while I'm talking.
Oh,
to
yeah.
her.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, that's my spidey sense goes on. Interest.
Yeah, and I use that one all the time too. Yeah. Although I'm a little bit flirty about it. I do it just to show that I like the person as a person. So maybe I'm not. Maybe it's in mixed signals. Anyway,
do too.
That's personality, though.
Sure.
It's not. Yeah.
So another one is signaling indirectly by hinting and talking generally about romance.
I feel like that one's really common.
Yeah.
So,
just when
how do you
just
feel about
friends.
romance?
Are
you for or against?
Just feeling out a situation and how a person reacts.
Yeah.
So Bobby and Sue started dating.
How do you feel about that?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Is that a thing that you're interested
Exactly. So another one is manipulating the setting by making it romantic and physically close with a partner, Yeah. I feel like I've been on some dates definitely where a girl was definitely doing that. To me, it was a clear setting, signal oh, you just dim the lights and we're sitting here on the couch here. Okay.
I'm generally very bad at that, but I think it's been used on me now that I think about it. Which is great. I'm not complaining.
Yeah. If you can pick up on cues, these indirect ones are effective if you're with a person who can pick up on cues and they welcome it,
Yeah.
Another one is joking, teasing, and playfully insulting a partner. Demonstrating resources is another one, or giving gifts and showing off possessions. I mean, because I know showing off possessions.
I think it's mostly men that do that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because guys don't even care about that as much. Oh, you got resources. Well, maybe I don't know. Back in the days, I thought to myself, when George Washington married Martha, and she had a lot of resources, a bunch of land. That's where he got all his wealth. So, anyways, okay, another one is using a third person, like a friend or family member, to initiate a relationship. And then the last one was acting passively and waiting for the other person to make the first move.
Very effective.
So,
that one.
Exactly.
Using a third... Okay, some of these I don't really understand. Using a third person such as a friend or family member to initiate it. Okay,
it's also,
all right.
When
like
they
a matchmaker.
When they talked about the third person, they even grouped into that online third-party websites or sources like that. Or, for example, I've been set up a few times.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
honestly, like my brother got married from a setup, and I've had at least one relationship out of a setup. So yeah. Anyways, I think that's part of what they're talking about.
Yeah.
So, anyways, so they had people kind of like rank these too in terms of like how effective they thought they were and stuff, and kind of talk about them. And I think a lot of this is not unexpected. What you would think that
they ranked them, or did they also do an experiment on it?
No, they didn't do an experiment. Okay. They just like asked people like, which of these have worked? Which of these have you actually gone into? Yeah. Well, at least that's what it seemed like to me as I was like reading through this. And I mean, to some extent, I was thinking like, well, this is like, when you're self-reporting stuff, it's not always the most accurate data, but I don't know how else you would do this unless you like followed people for a long time and you saw like, now they got into a relationship. What happened right before it? But I mean, I think as you would expect, direct initiation was like the most effective thing, basically. Like, even though there's a higher risk of rejection, so it was found to be like very effective, right? Somehow when you're very just direct about it, like, hey,
yo, get a dress. You're my date to the prom. I like you. Okay, let's kiss.
Okay, you're sounding like Rocky or something.
So I was wondering if you wouldn't mind marrying me too much.
Okay.
That's how he proposes.
Do you remember in Rocky where they're like on their first date and I don't know, they went out to eat somewhere or something, and then he's sitting over on the couch and he's like got his arm and he's like and he's got a
I said really close to the mic.
Yeah,
sorry, go on.
And anyways, he's got like this wife beater on, and it's like got a hole in it, and he's like, sorry.
Then he knocked over his mouse.
I knocked over her mouse. And anyways, he's like, you want to come sit over here?
It's warm over here.
And she was like, I think I'm fine over here. And he's like, well, my couch isn't good enough for you? Or something like that. And he was like getting all upset about it. But yeah, later on in that date, he just started kissing her out of the blue, and it was like, I was watching this with some girls, and they were like, yeah, don't ever do that, guys.
That doesn't
work. Unless you already like him. Well,
yeah, I know, it goes back to that.
I mean,
yeah, a lot of it, there's a fine line between creepiness and welcome, depending on how much you like.
But also a big part of that story, right, is that Adrian she had been emotionally abused by her brother, and she was very timid, and and Rocky was the first person to really show interest in her, and that was unfamiliar to her.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
And anyways, so kind of like some of the things that came out of the study though were that like men and women were both found to be effective, basically equally successful at initiating, but using different tactics. I think as you would expect, men used more of the direct strategies, like we've been talking about. Like I ask the girl out or whatever, and women use more indirect, passive strategies. That's been my experience. My whole dating experience has been that mostly. Like it's.
Would you rather have it? Girls be more direct?
I like to think, and I do think that I'm good at picking up on clear cues that are not like where they're not have to actually ask me out, but they give me some signs that I think are pretty clear that like they would welcome me asking them out.
Yeah.
I feel like usually like guys need a little bit of encouragement, but not like a ton of encouragement. Yeah. They need enough to just feel like pretty sure you're going to say yes if they ask you out, We've talked about that. They need to be like 80-something% sure that you'll say yes. And if you talk to a guy enough, you like touch him on the arm. At least my experience for me is that a girl does that to me enough, and it seems like pretty clear.
Your spidey sense goes off.
My spidey sense goes off. And I'm like, welcome's a date. Ding! Yeah. So, I don't know. This also, they found that people who have a goal tend to use more direct tactics, that tend to be more emotionally open. Like, I had a friend in Phoenix who, like, she had not ever kissed a guy, and she was, like, in her 20s, and it was, like, her goal. Like, she wanted to kiss someone that summer, and yeah, she made it happen. I mean, so she was more direct about it, because she was like, I want this to happen,
Yeah. So this is interesting. If it's okay, I'd like to just go through what they found here about each of these 8 strategies. Yeah. So emotional involvement, which is that you reveal things about yourself and you have a deep, intimate, emotional connection. They found that to be effective and agreeable, but requires communication skills, which makes sense.
Yeah.
Oftentimes one or both people aren't very adept at connecting. At least, well, some people are more adept at it than others, right? And so it might
in general, women are better at it than men.
I'd say so.
I know that Lisa Snell, she's a dating coach. She talks about her advice that she often gives to guys is when you're talking to a girl you're dating about your day or whatever, use emotion words. How's your day? It was stressful. Because it helps foster emotional connection.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't just say, it's fine.
It's good. It's good. It's good.
It's boring.
Even
boring is pretty good. Yeah. Okay. Direct initiation, they found to be very effective, like you're saying, but involves more anxiety and rejection. Yeah. Signaling indirectly avoids risks and rejections, but can create confusion, requires reading signals more. And again, that's probably more common among women as a strategy, and men, unfortunately, are not as good at reading those signals. So, yeah.
True, though. In guys' defense, I think we've talked about before, a lot of times a guy, nobody wants to feel direct rejection, which is what we do feel when we directly ask someone out if they're not into us eventually. But we also don't want to directly reject other people either.
Yeah,
we prefer to be indirect about it. And so sometimes I think probably on both genders, if a person is giving you cues that they're interested in you, you might have an inclination to play dumb and just not intentionally not pick up on you might pick up on the cues, but just not respond to them because you're just not interested back.
Yeah.
And that might come across as, they're not picking up on the cues. But they might be. They might just not want to respond.
Ignore them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, anyways, go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. Number 4, changing the setting. What was that? Oh, manipulating the setting. Okay.
Yeah.
It's found to be effective and comfortable if combined at least with indirect signaling. Okay. So it can't be too out of the blue.
Yeah. I'm going to dim the lights because it's too bright in here.
Oh.
Yeah. What is indirect signaling? You make kissing
but no.
face at them, beforehand.
We'll warm them up.
So, you turn out, you're like, I'm going to turn the lights down. It's pretty bright in here. Then you walk over with a smolder. No, but for example, one of the things we were talking about was generally talking about romance, trying to get on that topic,
oh yeah,
I'm going to dim the lights. So,
so that we can talk about other people who are in relationships.
I love it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Teasing and joking, more likely to lead to a fling, less likely to a long-term romance. Oh, dang it. Yeah, but it makes sense.
Yeah, it might seem kind of exciting in some ways.
Yeah, but flirting. Flirting is important, but it can just be a way to get some emotional high without actually committing to people.
Yeah,
which is kind of what this is.
Yeah, it's maybe not vulnerable. It's kind of putting up a little bit of a facade.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Which, well, we're not going to psychoanalyze Bryce, but that's an issue with me. I do like to flirt. Okay. But I also can commit.
Yeah, you can.
In theory.
Okay. Excellent.
No, I can't. Anyway, we're not going to go there. Okay. Okay, demonstrating resources. Having them increases attractiveness. Flaunting them comes across as fake. Interesting.
Yeah, basically, you need to have having resources makes you more attractive. I think, especially as a guy. Okay, this guy's got resources. That in general, that's been one of the things that makes you more attractive.
Yeah,
resources, social status.
Yeah.
But yeah, it can't be I just dropped $100 bill out of my wallet. Oh, oops. Well, I guess I'll just give that as a tip. Don't spend it all in one place, babe.
Yeah.
That does not work.
Okay, using a third party is effective, such as using family, friends, networking, dating websites. Wait, these are direct? What's that mean?
Yeah, well, in a sense, they're direct because you're having a third party be direct for you.
That's true.
But it is hey, would you like to go out with this person? Or, you know, same thing with dating websites and dating apps. You are being very direct with the person. You're all on there.
It's true.
To get dates. And the people you talk with, it's very clear that that's the reason you're talking with them.
And maybe that's part of why I hate them.
Yeah.
I think some of my style is a little indirect. That being said, when I meet a girl that there's something there, I'll pursue it. But pursue her.
Yeah.
I don't view women as objects.
Thank you.
I meant pursue the relationship.
We knew what you meant.
What are you going to say, Paul?
I was going to say, I think one thing we could fix about your strategy is that, your profile photo is you with a wife beater on a couch saying, well, my couch isn't good enough for you. I think that we learned from Rocky.
They don't respond to that well for some reason.
Just a bad joke.
Yeah.
Yes, wife.
Okay, and then lastly, acting passive, which could entail improving your appearance, being pleasant. It's less effective unless you are, quote unquote, extremely attractive.
Yeah, which is right. Which makes sense. Like, some people don't need to work.
Anything.
I guess that's why it doesn't work for me.
Stand there and smile.
Completely averagely attractive.
Yeah, right. So.
But that's interesting. Improving it, and that's really true. Like, I see so many very attractive women that I may try to engage them, and there's nothing there.
Yeah,
and it's like, okay, nice to meet you. I'm out of here. And it's it's kind of like in The Office. Mm-hmm. We're talking about Jan, and Kelly's like, how could someone so beautiful be so sad?
It's true.
But yeah, I mean, attractiveness, it is valuable in the dating market, but if you can't back it up with something, then, well, unless you're extremely attractive, as it says, but even there, that's not the key to a successful relationship.
Yeah, you might not need to do much to initiate if you're extremely attractive, because you might have people giving you very clear signals that they're interested in you, and because they think you're cute or something attractive. But
I think being extremely attractive, again, just theorizing here, but I can't empathize, but it's kind of a blessing and a curse.
Oh yeah.
In some ways, you become very accustomed to being treated a certain way, and you're a little perplexed when you're not, or you end up being really used by people that aren't that interested in you, but just find you very attractive.
Yeah, I speak from experience that is true.
Yes, as a male model. But why models? Why male models?
It's a bad joke.
Well, and you may not have all the opportunities that everyone else that's average has to build personality, conversation skills. Yeah. If people are constantly approaching you, you don't have to approach them. Those types of things. Then eventually people will catch on, and the initiation is easy because she's beautiful, but beyond that, she's hard to talk to. She has no personality. Yeah. That's not always the case with people who are extremely attractive, but that can be.
I found it is often the case.
Where you go out and you think, how is this girl not married yet? And because she's beautiful, and you hear from several people, well, there just wasn't anything there. She's smart, but she couldn't have a conversation, things like that. So.
Yeah, I think the life trials of people who are extremely attractive are a little bit different. They have things hard in different ways. Yeah. I mean, they probably have way more people coming up and showing interest that they are not interested in. Yeah. Than us more normal looking people that we only have to deal with, I don't know, maybe 25% of that or something. I don't know. That's true. Everybody coming up shooting for the moon if it's a super attractive person. There was we talked about this already, but, I thought it was interesting, this thing we went to, this presentation where the lady talked about, go on any dating app and just see what the percentage of people is that you swipe no on. And or the people that you swipe yes on, if the people you swipe yes on is lower than 5 or 10%, there's a lot of competition for those people. Yeah. And I think that's one of the things that super attractive people have to go through is that everybody's trying to, spend some time. Yeah. It's got to be. Yeah. Get kind of old. But.
Yeah.
Anyways. Okay. So there's this other book. What is this other study?
Yeah, it was a study. I mean, they introduced this by kind of talking about this book. Yeah, there was a book in '95 by called "The Rules" by Fine and Schneider. It was two women that wrote this, but where they were talking about how their hypothesis, I guess, or their experience was that women who played hard to get, either deliberately or by accident, were the ones who got the guys, while the women who asked guys out or were too available were the ones who got dumped. And in 2015, they maintained that was still the case. I don't know. I mean, it takes... I don't fully buy
I would have believed that seems intuitive to me. I would have also believed a counterintuitive finding. But but I mean, kind of like I was saying earlier, like I think it's a little bit of a bad sign in a relationship if the woman is the primary one initiating. Because I think men's, in my opinion, men's relational motivation is like a very scarce resource, and there's only certain things that engage it. But once engaged, it's a very potent energy source. If only we could harness it. So I think it's a bad sign if the man's not, motivated to be hunting, for lack of a better, or pursuing the woman. I think that's a little bit of a bad sign. Because usually that's what we do. That's usually what allows us to be successful in relationships, is that our manly motivations are engaged appropriately. What do you guys think?
Like,
have you had successful relationships with guys who were like, and you were doing all the initiating?
No.
Well,
exactly.
Yeah, I mean, no. Yeah. But I don't think that those relationships can't work in the beginning if she's the one initiating. If you think about a woman who is shy, if she isn't doing any of the instigating, she may not ever get seen. She may, you know what I mean? So...
Okay.
I think that there's a difference... Go ahead.
Well, so you're kind of talking about what we were talking about previously, which I kind of think of as like pre-initiating or soft initiating.
Yeah.
Like being in the right places, being presentable and cute. Which I think those are important.
Yeah.
What do you think, Paul?
Yeah, I mean, we kind of agree more with like how we were kind of framing it earlier, where it's totally okay for a girl to kind of do some initial initiation, and express interest, and then leave it in the guy's.
And that's how my parents' first date, like my mom initiated it.
Yeah.
And she's definitely more of an initiative. I mean, my dad is too, but she was very proactive.
Yeah, I have a few friends that they got married because the girl either clearly expressed interest. Actually, I have at least 3 or 4 friends like this, or directly just asked the guy out the first time and then just kind of left it from there.
So I guess my question would be to the two of you: if a girl initiates a first, date or whatever directly. Not anything passively, directly says, let's go do something on this night. Are you free? You say yes, you go out. At that point, if she waits and you don't do anything.
You mean after we've gone out?
After you've gone out. Because I also always hear, boys are slow. Like you have to give them time. Like they don't pick up on the signals that girls do. At that point, if you don't hear from him or he doesn't initiate anything from there, should she just move on?
I think so, but...
she should start tapering off her expectations.
Okay.
Not close the door completely, but it's true. I mean, I think all behavior communicates something, and that's why initiation is so important. It is about communicating where we're at, our interest in another person. So yeah, I think when a person drags their feet on that, I mean, you may need to get more information. Like maybe he's just out of town or something.
Yeah, obviously.
But yeah, generally that's kind of communicating something, which is something about this pairing is not motivating him to initiate.
Yeah, I mean, I usually think more than 90...
or there's some sort of fear.
Yeah,
or something else that's.
I think that's more rare. I would say
I think so too.
Very rarely, it's some kind of something's going on in his life that it's not a good place or whatever to pursue you. But almost always, he's just not feeling enough interest at the time, or there's someone else he's feeling more interested in, or may have invested more in, and he's maybe spending time with them. I think it's the same the other way around too with girls, but. Yeah, I mean, I take a little bit of issue with playing hard to get, as a good strategy.
Yeah.
Like, to me, that feels like same kind of thing. Like when guys try to coach other guys to like be a player or something. Like it's like I don't know. I mean, I don't. Cause
it's like you're playing a game.
Yeah, part of the thing I take issue with is that I don't think it's the act of asking the guy out that all of a sudden now he's not interested in. Maybe he would have been if he would have played hard to get. I think there may be some like small percentage of guys that are like these like. I don't know. Maybe they're like these super alpha males that they have to feel like they initiate everything from the beginning, or else they don't like the girl. That's not the case with me or with like 90% of the friends that I've talked to, guy friends, that like we don't care if a girl does some initiation, but we want it to be in the driver's seat. But you know, showing some interest is okay. That's like why we're trying to gather information to begin with. We want to ask the girl out if we like her. Yeah. And if she makes it easy for us to ask her out the first time, like it's not like a big deal. It's like maybe a bonus. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, you don't want to. I think it's true that like it's possible to like seem so like come across so strong that the guy might question like, wait a minute, why is she coming
What's
off so strong?
happening here?
Did I misread how interested I should be in her? But you know, I think even just straight up asking a guy out and showing clear interest and being direct, and then kind of leaving it in the guy's hands is, I think. Yeah. To me, I don't think that would turn most guys off at all. Like,
I don't think so either.
Yeah.
So this was, and we're coming to the end, but we should talk about this. So there was a 2011 study. Of course, the sample size was small, and it was all undergraduates, which is usually the case.
Yeah, it's what they call WEIRD. The WEIRD acronym. You've heard this before? White, educated, something. I don't remember, but it's all like white college students.
And it's probably not that representative, but it's the best they have.
Not white, sampling. Western, sorry, Western educated.
Yeah. Anyway, so they found a positive relationship between a person's feelings of control over relationship initiation and the amount of effort a woman would put into initiating romantic relationships. That's just correlations, not causation necessarily. It's possible that initiators just tend to feel more in control about their lives in general. That makes sense.
Well, that's a question they asked. It's possible that that's that. Like, I mean, the interesting thing about the study is that they were trying to figure out whether if a woman feels more in control in general, will she then initiate more? And so that's kind of one of the things they were testing is like, well, if you like study and pass an exam, right after that, are you more likely as a woman to initiate something romantic with a guy? And they found that women were kind of one of the things they found was that women are more, they have like more highs and lows with like how much they're willing to initiate something. And if they feel like they had just had a win in some area,
some other non-romantic area of their life that gave them a feeling of control over their lives,
then they would like take charge of their dating situation. Well, maybe they would then call that guy up and be like, you know, why do you keep
Listen, buddy, when are we going out again?
Why haven't you kissed me after 8 dates? Or whatever. Or something like that. Yeah, which is interesting. I don't know. Yeah, it was interesting though. They said that it would women's intention to initiate a relationship peaked under high personal control conditions, making them under those conditions equally likely to take charge in a dating situation. They might not take charge in the same way as a guy would, you know, because like we were talking about before, women might still be a little bit less direct, but they might still take charge and do something like, "Hey, you want to come over for dinner?" And I don't know. I mean, it might be something that's still a little bit. Not as direct, but still they're taking charge in some way, you know. So, yeah. Anyways. One of the things they said, too, is that one of their comments is that women who generally feel lack of control over their romantic outcomes, they might be particularly sensitive to fluctuations in personal control in ways that men are not. So, I guess maybe as guys, one of the benefits of always usually being the pursuers is that I guess at least we do, and to some extent, feel maybe more in control of our, you know, romantic outcomes. I mean, it's not entirely true because we're always like, well, that girl's not liking me. I'm not in control.
Yeah, exactly.
If I were in control,
that feeling of control can dissipate into thin air very quickly.
Exactly. But they're just pointing out that like women might feel more fluctuations in that area. And so women who usually feel a lack of control in dating, they might be more susceptible to a good positive outcome in some area, making them all of a sudden more.
So if only there were a way that us men could harness this.
Yeah, exactly.
How can we bend this to our wills and in our favor?
Just go be around that girl right after she did pass an exam.
If we were in school still, we could somehow bribe the teacher to give him good grades or something.
She's gotta pass the exam.
I don't know.
Well, it said even there that it helped them even if just to remember a time that they had control. Oh. So maybe just bring this up. Hey, when's this time you really felt like you had a lot of control?
Just text the girl. Out of the blue.
And then they say it, and then you're just like, wow, that's great. You were so in control of that situation. And then just wait. I don't know.
So you women are women. What do you think about that?
I guess that makes sense because it's girls usually have more feelings and they fluctuate more often than men.
Yeah.
So you're feeling more confident.
Yeah.
Yeah, then you might do something more confident.
Yeah.
Right after you give an amazing haircut.
There we go.
Yeah.
And then you
probably
fling your hair and call up that guy. Hey, boy.
That's what happens,
every week.
Something exactly like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
So we're just about done, but I have just one final question. Do you think in our society single people have ceased to initiate? Is this on the decline? Or is it not?
Yeah. That's a good question.
I don't know.
The
answer is I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I think probably maybe the direct initiation might be on a slight decline, or maybe
I think that's probably true.
Maybe the point of direct initiation, maybe there's longer indirect in the beginning. Do you know what I'm saying? I think possibly, it takes a little longer. You want a little more information. You want to know a little bit more about her situation before you put yourself out there.
That is very true.
I don't necessarily think that that's on a decline to the point where it's not happening.
Right.
We know it's happening to a point, but I think the launch is stalling a little longer. And I don't know what that cause would be.
Yeah.
But
so I know for me, I'll rely more on social media to kind of instead of if I just meet someone at a party or something and I think they're cool, unless we really made a connection and the sparks are flying and it's getting a little hot in there and I have this funny feeling inside that makes me feel good but sick a little bit. I'm not barring that. I'll in that scenario I'd get their number, right? And hey, let's do something. Yeah. And that happened to me last year. Anyway, but otherwise usually I'll just hey, what's your last name? I'll look you up on Facebook and I'll try to reach out to them that way and invite them to something to some social event first or something, or maybe from there I'll message them and say, hey, I had fun time with you. Let's go out. Yeah. But there is an extra step that makes it a little less direct.
Yeah, and that way too. I don't usually like getting a girl's number the first time either.
Me neither.
I'm well, I don't even really know her
exactly.
that well, but I'll usually do that too. I'll Facebook friend her, and then if we had some conversation that I can kind of continue, I'll usually try to continue that a little bit, and I'll kind of test the waters and see well, how fast is she responding? And just seem to be keeping the conversation going. And then if she does, then I'll just be like, I remember.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Sometimes I wonder too. Are we different? Do we initiate less than people did past generations? I don't know. Was it, or maybe do our dates mean less than they did back then? I don't really know. In the United States, in our culture, going on a date with somebody a lot of times doesn't seem like it's not necessarily a super meaningful thing necessarily. Well, you might be going on dates with one person and with another person or other people at the same time. And I don't know if in the past that was different. I know in European cultures and stuff, it's more well, you kind of just get to know them in these friend settings. And then when you ask them out, it's you're basically saying do you want a date?
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah.
Which that is kind of more direct in some ways, I guess.
Yeah. As I recall from stuff I've read, but not recently, the dating is kind of a dinosaur in our culture. Hookups are more more common. And oftentimes people will get into like serious relationships kind of like almost by accident. Like they just like start living together or whatever. But it was never like a deliberate like decision. Yeah, which, I mean, there's still initiation that leads to that, but I think it looks different from the olden days where, where old great grandpa went to the store and got some flowers and then knocked on, the girl down the street's door and talked to her dad and asked if she was home. I mean, that seems to have changed a lot.
Well, I was going to say, I think part of the decline of traditional dating, I think is the social media, or even just like ways of communication. You mentioned that you might, find them on Facebook.
Yeah.
Well, that's like a whole other avenue to kind of almost, I don't want to say muddy the water, but kind of. It's not direct. When our parents were dating, in their time, it was a phone call or you'd walk down to their house, like you said, knock on the door. Yeah. Now there is 100 ways that someone could communicate with you to like halfway find out what your situation is, if you're dating, if you're interested in this person.
It muddies the waters, you're right.
And they can see because of what we post and put out there, they can see what we're doing with our lives before they even make a move. If you, meet someone interesting at a party or something, you go home and look them up on Facebook or Instagram, you can instantly kind of, I don't know, not pass judgment, but just kind of, you see what their life is like. Yeah. And you, before even really having a one-on-one good communication,
start putting them in boxes a little bit.
Yeah. And you can say, well, I don't know if I'm ready to ask them out, but I'm going to send them a message on whatever, which isn't a bad thing, but it's just very different. Like you said, the, decline of a traditional dating. It's because all these other ways are muddying the water.
Yeah, I feel like it could almost make it more direct though, because it's like it's easier to receive rejection from someone you might not know that well, like over a text. Like you can, lots of people can be more open, like on social media, because it's like you have nothing to lose.
It softens the rejection a little bit. It's like a little bit more embarrassing to be like rejected verbally or in face to face,
or from someone you know a little better.
Or if you send a message or you send a text and they just don't reply, you can take that a little bit easier than if I said directly to your face, do you want to go out? And you didn't say anything and then walked away.
But no one would do that.
But now you have that option.
That happens on the phone.
You have that option with a phone call, a text, a message on Instagram. You just don't have to reply.
Okay. And you're saying wait, what are you saying about that?
So I'm saying that, like...
Because I've already made up my opinion, which is that ghosting people like that is not okay.
I'm absolutely not saying that
but
it's
okay. But it sends a signal. But I'm saying if that is
it's a softer rejection.
It's a soft rejection.
And it's an option now. Yeah. 30 years ago,
you're right.
That was not an option.
I see what you mean.
You could call someone's home, you could leave a voicemail, and then you'd never just call back. You know what I mean? But, I don't know. I feel like manners would tell you to call them back and let them down. Now, that's a common enough thing that we have a term for it called ghosting.
Yes,
that
you're
is
right.
what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That is a whole other realm to the decline of traditional dating, where there's just ways to hide from putting someone in a place you don't want to.
And I think people do it because they're avoiding discomfort. Yeah. They're avoiding discomfort, plain and simple. And
absolutely.
it's the coward's way out. It's the lazy way out.
Yeah.
It's not that I'm above it, but it ought not to be the norm.
Yeah.
Another strategy I've seen is somebody writes you something on a message or whatever, Facebook or whatever, and they may kind of ask you out or express some clear interest, and also have something else that you can comment on. And then when you respond, you just respond to the other thing.
Avoid.
You're like, yeah, that was a great concert. Ha ha ha.
So that's a clear signals though.
It is.
Without ghosting.
There's no way you didn't see that,
Right.
No bueno.
I think it would be interesting, like, way back in the days, like the Victorian era. So, I was reading like War and Peace recently. It was really interesting to me about how, like, you would just like go start calling on some girl, and then it would be like super fast. You'd be like talk to their parents, like, yep, ask for their hand. And, and it would be really funny to like. It's just interesting to me how back in the days you would go and be like, I would like to call upon you. I guess we're kind of saying the same thing. We're like, can I have your number? But it seems a little bit less of a commitment. Saying I would like to call upon you is more like I'm
ready.
Super checking you out for marriage. Like, and I might ask for your hand in the next month or two. I don't know.
Yeah. Anyway, we're almost at the 60. Yeah. And we started late.
We gotta wrap it up.
Anyway, any final thoughts? I don't have any.
No, this is great.
Yeah. I think, my only takeaway.
Thanks for later.
No, you're welcome. My only takeaway thought was that, like, that the more you venture, the more direct you are, the more risk for rejection. But according to these studies, the more likely you are to actually get in a relationship.
Yeah. It's the most effective.
Yeah. It's the most effective it is.
Because then you know either way.
Yeah. Like, exactly. And if
yes
not,
or no. And then you can move on.
You can move on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
One of my friends, he was in California. He was in Palo Alto, I think. And there was a girl in his church congregation, and she just like straight up made a list of like every guy in the congregation ranked according to which ones she liked the most. Mm-hmm. And then she just straight up went down the list. She just went and flirted with the top one.
Nice.
To see if he asked her out. And if he didn't, after like a few interactions, she just crossed him off and went to the next guy. And she married like the 10th guy.
Wow.
Yeah. And it was just kind of like a very effective way of like, if you be direct and you can find out information a lot faster. Well, if that person's not into you, you may as well move on.
Yeah.
It's not going to go anywhere. You can waste a lot of time being indirect with them.
How would you like to be somebody's 10th choice?
I know.
10th, like on a physical list.
I know.
You know what? If it works, that's
just
great.
You gotta shred that thing and never admit that it ever
existed. And then the more you know, he might have moved his way up the list. You never know.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and as she got to know him and realized that number one was kind of
the ones that didn't respond to her efforts, they became.
Yeah.
They were no longer at the top of the list.
Right.
They weren't on the list.
A guy might not care being low on the list if he ends up winning. I don't know. Like there was some show I was watching. I'm trying to remember what it was, but like two guys went to like a speed dating thing, and the one guy didn't get picked by any of the girls, but he was the more attractive guy.
Oh,
and the other guy got picked by a bunch of the girls. And the attractive guy was like, "What? This is bogus." And he went and asked the ladies, and he's like, "Why didn't you pick me?" And she's like, "Well, I thought you were like too attractive. Like I didn't think you'd be interested in me." And then the ladies would be like, "But clearly you are. Here you are." And he would be like, "No, actually, I was just trying to find out because, I'm
not actually interested in you. I just want to know why you weren't interested in me."
Yeah, what's wrong with you?
Because it's not me.
And then we get all mad at him. And then he went and told his friend because he was like mad at his friend. He's like, "Look, I talked to the ladies. They only didn't pick you because they thought I was too attractive for them." And the guy like looked kind of sad for a second, and then he said, "So I win." And it was like a good point. Like he gets a girl who's more attractive than he maybe deserves because he's not going to go after the more attractive. Anyways, I thought that was a positive spin on. Anyways, probably better wrap it up.
Let's wrap it up. Well, thanks for coming on.
Thanks.
We'll have you again if you ever want to. Or if this was too traumatic to ever do again, then we won't.
No.
We will make an initiation. You can choose how you respond.
Thank you.
Oh, man.
That's good.
Yeah,
exactly.
Thank you.
That's great.
Okay.
All right. Well, thanks for tuning in, everyone.
We'll see you all next time. Goodbye.
Take care. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider subscribing on iTunes or your favorite podcasting app and give us a rating. Thank you.